All right, dear class, I hope this message finds you well. I hope you're making it through the semester and being really productive and having lots of success. I always wish you the best. Just want to touch base as we move into our video conference calls next week and share some information with you. So first of all, I believe I'm all sort of caught up on the grading. I think we have a couple of discussion boards left that many of you have already submitted. I do want to make sure that, I know it's an online course, but don't move too far ahead without making sure that you're reading and digesting the readings, because as we progress these next two discussion boards, I'm really going to be looking for those concepts from the reading because I'm spending a little bit more time looking at the readings. I'm going to be looking for concepts, not sentences, not paragraphs, not general terms like vulnerability that we can use, but specific concepts, theories, ideas that are unique to the article. I think that's what I want to bring home. Ideas that are unique to the article. You can bold anything. You can bold sport. You can bold depression. You can bold anxiety. You can bold youth development in sports, but doesn't mean that it relates to the article. And those concepts should be followed by an in-text citation. Take the opportunity to make sure that your last two discussion boards are tight, because one of the primary reasons that I wanted to speak with you today is because I do want to let you know that, pretty much the discussion boards, the case study, that's practice. It's all been practice for this issue brief. And I grade pretty tough on the issue brief. I gotta be honest with you. It's gonna be hard to get an A or a B on this paper. Man, I like to be transparent about that because I'm not as rigorous in the grading throughout the semester, but I expect you to pick it up in the end. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. There's been quite a bit of news with regard to sports social work. And when we think about sports social work, we not only think about, the eating disorders, the anxiety, the depression, the mental health issues, but also the wellness, the youth development, the mindfulness, the meditation, the relationship between CBT and DBT, and performance on the field. And so the extra credit opportunity for this week, and for those of you who've been missing out on this extra credit, hey, it's all on you. But the extra credit opportunity for this week is going to be to find a mental health story that deals with the Paralympics or that deals with professional sports. And if I said mental health issue, I meant sports social work issue, because sports social work issue with regard to Paralympics or professional sports, and it will be due no later than Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can email that directly to me at emilygill.jr@icloud.com. All right, let's talk a little bit about this issue brief. First of all, I highly recommend that you get something down on paper before we have our video conference, because that's going to be your time to talk to me about what you're doing. At the very least, you should have a topic, and you should know a little bit about your topic. For example, a problem statement, possibly put an outline down on paper, and really have some idea. You got to utilize this video conference time. Now, the issue brief is broken down in a few things. First of all, we have the issue. And this pen isn't writing very well, so I'm going to try another one. First of all, we have the issue. All right? So in your issue brief, I need one. Y'all see that? One sentence that clearly identifies what the issue is. And then A, B, and C sort of bringing more specificity to the issue. Now, I don't want y'all all out here talking about all sorts of things. So if I'm saying, for example, I'm talking about, Colin Kaepernick and being invited to an NFL tryout this weekend, and I'm framing that as a social justice issue, then I might say something like, an outside organization needs to address the social justice implications of Colin Kaepernick playing in the NFL again. Here I might talk about his lawsuit. Here I might talk about the comments of Trump. Here I might talk about the reality that they're giving him a workout on Saturday, knowing good and goddamn real that, teams are traveling and GMs and coaches are going to be traveling, preparing for games on Sunday. But that's beside the point. What I'm not going to be talking about, sort of is Eric Reed, or I'm not going to be talking about my man Malcolm Jenkins. I'm not going to be talking about all these things. I'm going to go A, B, and C. And really, ladies and gentlemen, as a professor, I'm not really looking for any epiphanies on paper. I'm looking for you to follow the directions and do some good writing. That's it. I want you for it to logically flow. That's it. It doesn't have to be, fancy words or big words, but just it has to flow. It has to have depth. It has to have content. It has to demonstrate that you've been thinking about it. So when looking at the issue, you can probably knock that out in about 5 sentences, to be perfectly honest with you. But please, as you are writing your issue, please use sources to support what you are talking about. Population affected. Now again, when we're talking about an issue, and the issue that I'm sort of talking about right now is CAP. Who's affected by this? Who's affected by it? To a certain degree, as pro athletes who are interested in social justice, right? It might be NFL owners NFL owners who are sort of concerned about how social justice might impact the bottom line. It might be young kids who are looking up to Kaepernick. So who's the population affected? Now you're going to be talking about things like high school soccer, and you're going to be talking about things like mental health legislation in the National Collegiate Athletic Association. But really talk about population who's going to be affected. At the very least, you should be able to pinpoint 2 groups. See that, ladies and gentlemen? 2 groups. And then talk about 2 ways that each of those, so 2 ways that each group is affected. See, I'm giving you this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm serious. I'm going to look at this when I'm grading your paper. This is your rubric. So right now I said, the issue is about 5 sentences, 5, 6 sentences. You can go to 7, that's fine. But right here, I'm saying that you should be able to write about the population affected and wrap that up in anywhere from about 4 to 6 sentences. But it's got to be tight, ladies and gentlemen. It's got to be related to one another. All right, so I want you to talk about the population affected. And then relevant systems affected. Relevant systems affected. So, when we're talking about, I'm going to use Kaepernick again in his situation, but when we're talking about systems, really his work expands to the criminal justice system. All right. His work has expanded to felons and employment. And again, this can dovetail off of populations affected. It can dovetail off the population. So you talk about the population, and then you talk about the system that population is involved in. NFL and politics. And charities. And what charities players tend to support. Do they now all have this social justice slant a la things that, say, LeBron is doing with his Promise Keepers school? Now, here's a challenging part of the paper for some of you, and that is a literature review. So if I'm doing some work on some literature review on the Kaepernick situation, I can go and I can look at, the Syracuse 9, the Wyoming 8. I can look at the situation that happened at Grambling. I can look at the walkout at Oklahoma University. I got a plethora of things that I can pull from. But I got to be really crystal clear about this. Peer-reviewed articles. Now, the instructions, I think, say 5 to 7. I need at least 4 peer-reviewed articles. That means they come from research. If you have any questions about whether or not it's a peer-reviewed article, feel free to email it to me. Doc, is this a peer-reviewed article? I'll take a look at it, yay or nay. At least 4. As a matter of fact, I'm going to even say 3. 3. And the other 2 articles can be from the popular media. So 3 peer-reviewed articles that are relevant to your topic, that provide some additional insight into the latter parts of your paper. And the latter part of your paper, really, if you think about it, the next part of your paper is the intersection between sports and social work. So you can knock that out in like 3 or 4 sentences. You know, Kaepernick, social justice. Kaepernick, advocacy. Kaepernick, social learning and modeling for young people. Bing, bang, boom. I might state the intersection. I might give an example. I might state another intersection. State the intersection, give an example. State another intersection, give an example. State another intersection, give an example. 6 sentences, that section's done. But here's the most challenging part in addition to the literature review, and that is, what's your plan for addressing this? What's your plan for addressing this issue? Now, it's got to be an issue, ladies and gentlemen. You know, you can't say, well, you know, I don't know. You can't bring up something that's not an issue, that's something that's not a little bit controversial, something that needs a fix. That's what you got to talk about. That's what you got to talk about. For example, in the paper that is online right now, it talks about whitewashing of soccer and the reality that, you know, soccer, when we talk about soccer at the elite level, excludes a lot of people of color and girls of color. That's a problem. So it's got to be a problem. And when we have a problem, we need a solution. And that's the last part of your paper. And that's where you will spend the majority of your time. Because you will state what your plan is in a couple of sentences, and then you will be very systematic in terms of explaining to me at least 3 to 5 steps. 3 to 5 steps that will get you started on implementing that plan. And please excuse me for my poor markers here, but 3, ladies and gentlemen, my markers are looking bad right now. 3 to 5 steps. Now again, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of this is just about good writing. You know, think about things that you do. Think about it like this. You know, if you were going to explain to me how to cook a carrot cake, how to make a carrot cake, step by step, that's what I want you to do. And you don't have to get to a point here where you necessarily resolve the issue, but I certainly want you to give it a shot in terms of saying, these are some initial steps that we would start in terms of addressing this issue. Some of us may be able to go further than others, but I want it to be step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. If you need to do bullet points and steps so that you're on track, do bullet points and steps. Do whatever it takes. But I'm telling you this, what I need is a cohesive idea, a cohesive plan, something that takes me from point A to point D, or point A to point P, or point A to point Z. That's what I need. So at the end, you're saying, you know what? After implementing this plan, these are a couple of outcomes that I expect to have a positive impact on that issue that I started out with. Ladies and gentlemen, that's your rubric. That's your extra credit. I'm looking forward to looking at these papers. You know, again, you follow this scribble back here, you got a great opportunity at making the kind of grade that you want. If not, make sure that you do some of this extra credit so we'll be able to supplement that grade. But I'm sure you're going to end up where you want, because I'm sure that you put in the time reading the material, paying attention to the landscape of sports social work as it unfolds at UT or in the Austin community, regionally, nationally, or internationally. You know, it's interesting because Megan Rapaport, who won a Woman of the Year award, I think it was last night, you know, cited the work of Colin Kaepernick and thanked him for all that he's done. So I'm hoping for the best in his workouts this weekend, and I'm hoping the best for you. I'm hoping the best for our guys as they go out there and look to beat down Iowa State, as well as our outstanding volleyball team, women's soccer, as well as all the teams that you root for, that you coach, and that you support. Appreciate your time. Look forward to getting your papers. Take care. Bye-bye.